opportunity to welcome onto the stage the Senior Vice President of Products, IBM Software, Mr. Dinesh Nirmal.
Namaskaram. It's a really great honor to be here to talk about generative AI. But rather than me talk about generative AI to start this, I want to show you what it does. What is the biggest benefit of generative AI? What is the one single, if we could summarize it, one biggest benefit is automation. It automates tasks. So you will see, I want to ask a very simple question on IBM's journey in Kochi. We have been here for 2 years, and what has our journey been? Our journey has been, over the 2 years, tie up with universities, working with students, working with the government, new innovations coming, new products coming. But that all can be a lot of work. But using generative AI, you will see in less than 5 seconds, you can see that data summarized in the web page. So Ratish is here. He's going to take us through it live to show us how the journey of IBM in IBM Kochi has been. So Ratish.
So when you said summarize, we thought we should add a twist to it. So why don't we do it through Dinesh's eyes with a collage, right? So
you see this. I mean, you see that it has taken all the information from multiple sources and summarized it along with the photo library in less than 5 seconds. That is the power of generative AI. And even today's, I think, is there. Is it today's event also is there, the picture? So you see it. That's the power of generative AI. Thank you, Ratish. I just wanted to show the audience the power of generative AI, not just me talking about it. So thank you. Ratish did all the work, but I'll take it. So think about it. This is why it's catching up like fire, because you can take 2 years worth of information from multiple sources and summarize it into a paragraph, 2 or 3 paragraphs, along with pictures in less than 5 seconds. Now think about an enterprise adopting it. They have optimized and made their employees more productive. That is the biggest benefit generative AI is bringing. Now if you look at India, India is supposed to gain $1 trillion, $1 trillion in uplift by 2035 to the India economy. That's huge. That is the kind of impact we are looking at from a generative AI perspective. This will create more jobs. This will change the way we commerce, change the way we communicate, change the way we do things. Why do I say that? I'll give you my own example. I have a 13-year-old. Trust me, he never delivers homework assignments on time. Never. 2 weeks ago, he goes, I have an assignment to write about Romanian history. I said, okay, this one is also going to be late. 3 days before the assignment is due, he comes to me and says, Daddy, I'm done. It's all neatly done. Put it on my desk. I said, wow, that's impressive. How did you do it? He goes, I didn't do it. ChatGPT did it. That is the other side of productivity that's coming. But everybody's using it. Why? Because it enables everyone to do their jobs better. Think about if you're a bank. A customer calls you. Before, a customer service representative had to go through multiple documents to answer the question. Now using generative AI, they can, at their fingertips, within seconds, they can get the answer. As soon as the call is hung up, they can classify it as based on sentiment to say how the call went. Now, can the machine learning do it? Of course it can do it. Machine learning can also do classification. It can also do prediction. But what generative AI can do is that it can do it at scale. That is a huge differentiation that generative AI brings. So that productivity, the optimization, the benefit that enterprises bring to customers, that is what's driving the generative AI. That is why everybody wants to adopt generative AI, because it brings every aspect of an enterprise to succeed and survive. So $1 trillion. Now, another statistics, which is 49%, and this is an India-specific stats, 49% of Indian CEOs are going to hire folks for generative AI that they did not plan last year. That's close to 50% of all CEOs wants to hire generative AI specific jobs that they didn't think about it last year. That is the pace that generative AI is moving at. Think about it. If you just look at just the models, right? You go to Hugging Face, there is 694,000 models. 694,000 models. I mean, think about it. No human being in their right mind will be able to go through every single model and figure out which model they want. Look at the size of the models. It has gone from 10 billion parameter to 30 to 50 to 100. So the size of the model has changed. The number of models have changed. Why? Because it's really changing the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we commerce. And that's why the CEOs wants to hire more people for generative AI. That's why India has such a great potential, because where can you get the skills to really drive the generative AI the way we can? Nobody else can. So skills becomes a critical piece. What is the other one, right? Not only skills, how can we make sure there's enough data? India has 1 billion people. How can you get any more data more than that? So if all this promise of generative AI is true, if all this promise is true, only 10% of the enterprises have really put generative AI into production. Why is that? I mean, we talk about promise of generative AI, we talk about the benefits of generative AI, we talk about the productivity, the optimization of generative AI, but only 10% of the worldwide enterprises have really put generative AI into production. That kind of begs the question, why? I want to take you through it, but not only take you through it, I'm going to bring some guests on stage later from different sectors to talk about why is that enterprise cannot easily adopt generative AI. What is preventing them from adopting the generative AI? I have one word for it. Because no enterprise, unless that enterprise was born in the last 2 years, they have an existing infrastructure. They have an existing infrastructure. They have multiple personas and practitioners that exist in that enterprise. I mean, no enterprise, now big enterprise was born in the last 2 years. They have been around for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Look at IBM. We have been around for 112 years. Still doing great. So many of these enterprises have been around for a very long time. So then how do you infuse generative AI into that? There's multiple personas that exist there. I'll give you a simple example of one enterprise that I work with. 10 billion API calls on Thanksgiving week. 10 billion API calls. 100 billion transactions on Thanksgiving week. 100,000 data transformations. I can go on and on and on. That is a single enterprise. That is the complexity you're dealing with. Now, take that in and look at the different practitioners and different personas that exist. There's a developer. There's a DevOps person. There's a data scientist. There's a SecOps. there's ML ops. These are all different personas that exist. Now you have to bring everybody together. Not only that, you have to infuse generative AI into the existing infrastructure. Let me give you an example. This is real scenario. This is the complexity that exists in an enterprise. There's a development phase. I mean, forget the development phase. There's a build phase. There's, release. There's all those things. But I'm simplifying it. There's a development phase. There's a deployment phase. Then you have governance aspects to it. But look at all the frameworks that exist. Me as an application developer can use Llama Index, LangChain, any of those frameworks to do application development. Those are all frameworks that exist. Now, as I develop more and more code and more applications, complexity only increases. How do I deploy this application? How do I govern these models that I'm going to put out there? Everybody talks about responsible AI, which is very critical, but I also talk about risk in AI. I mean, the responsible AI is when you have to make sure that bias doesn't exist, HAP, which is hate, abuse, profanity, there's filters for it. But there's an aspect called risk in AI. What is that? That is when, look at all the open source packages that's coming. What is the vulnerabilities that exist with it? What licenses those open source packages have? What risk that brings into your enterprise? So there's a risk in AI along with the responsible AI. But the picture that you see is a real enterprise that's going through a development, deployment, and all those phases. And now you add even more complexity to say, how do I make sure I infuse generative AI into the existing set of tools, the existing set of tools that exist within an enterprise? So what do you need? How do you simplify it? How can you make sure enterprises can adopt generative AI? I call it the 4 things. The 4 core things. You need a platform. You need to build, run, and manage. But there is an element that nobody talks about, which is very important, which is culture. Unless that culture is coming bottoms up, not tops down, nothing will happen. I'll give you another example. I'm working with a large enterprise where they're using generative AI for code generation. The top management has said every developer has to use generative AI to generate code. It has been 6 months. Guess what percentage of their developers have adopted it? 8%. 8%. This is one of the challenges. While you need a set of tools, you also need a cultural change. That needs to come from bottoms up, not tops down. So these are the 5 core things you need as a platform. How do you build, manage, run? But you need to bring a cultural change with it. So what did we do, right? I mean, along with other vendors, IBM is also playing very into generative AI. What are we doing? How are we managing? As we go to our clients, we talk about generative AI, but we also bring our platform. I know there's a lot in here. I want you to focus on 3 things. 3 things. It all starts with data. It all starts with data. You have to make sure you have clean, curated data to fine-tune the model. Because you can get the base model. Now you have to use your enterprise data to fine-tune it. So that's number 1. The data becomes the most critical aspect of generative AI. And that's why even in Kochi, we have a data team that's focused on how do we create a lakehouse to put all the data that's coming in that's unstructured. So data becomes the most important critical phase. The second one is all about models. Can you get the prompt engineering? Can you get fine-tuning done for the models? And there's plenty of models out there. Like I said, if you go to Hugging Face, There's 690,000 plus models out there. So there's no shortage of models, but how do you pick the right model for your use case?
Which website?
The third one is governance. And we have a session that's totally focused on governance. How do I make sure this model is not drifting? How do I make sure the model doesn't hallucinate? How do I make sure the model doesn't have hate, abuse, and profanity? That's what the enterprises are worried about. Because none of these enterprises want to be on the headlines of newspapers because they pick the wrong model. The fourth, but the final one is assistance. How do you build a set of assistants on top of it? So if you can bring these four things together, and that's what we focused on from an IBM perspective to say, how can we give the data available? Two, how can we create a set of models that's available to our customers? How can we put a governance on top of it? And last but least, have a set of assistants that can run on it. Those are the four core things that we focused on from a watsonx perspective for our customers. And it's resonating really well. Look at all the customers, and this is just a set of customers. SAP, in India we are working with Wipro. I mean, these are customers that we could put the names out, but it is really getting adopted. And the reason is, I always go back, because
Who will get in touch with us?
it allows you to automate. It allows you to make your people more productive. It allows you to make your enterprises more optimized. And I know I talked a lot about generative AI, but I want you to see in action. So I'm going to bring two people from local lab. The first person is Sudesh Kairali, who is going to come on stage. And the second person is Renu Thangachan. They are both in Kochi lab, working closely on creating generative AI. So you will see, what will you see? You will see how easy it is to fine-tune a model using your laptop. On your laptop, Sudesh is going to show that work is being done in Kochi, where you take a large model, you fine-tune it on your laptop. Not only will you fine-tune, you will see the improvement that happens in real time. And then Renu is going to come back and talk about the assistant to say, how can you infuse that model into a real-life use case to help customers and enterprise drive it. So please welcome Renu and Sudesh to stage to show a live demo.
Thank you, Dinesh, for setting the stage for us and clearly talking about the valuable insights about generative AI. It's clearly visible to us that the entire world is excited to use generative AI and solve the real-life problems for us. And here we are going to talk about how to use this and actually practically solve some real-life world problems.
Yes. So generative AI is a spark that will propel each of us into the future of work, always growing, always improving, and finding better ways to serve as a catalyst for IBM, our partners, our clients, and even to the whole world. Today, me and Sudesh will take you all through the process of fine-tuning an LLM, or a large language model, and how to utilize such an LLM in a daily life scenario to simplify, automate, and optimize your mundane task.
If you go to open source Hugging Face and search for your favorite LLM, you are going to see thousands of versions of it. Because somebody was able to develop, add knowledge, and tune the model, but they were not able to contribute it back. Instruct Lab is a novel technology invented by IBM and Red Hat exactly to solve that problem.
So, Sudesh, I do have my laptop. Can you do this fine-tuning with my laptop?
Absolutely. Instruct Lab comes with what we call iLab CLI. This is a CLI tooling. And with this CLI tooling, you can install in such as MacBook M3, which has some GPUs.
Okay.
And then you can develop some knowledge into an LLM using conversational experience. It has series of commands, and Right now, you have the Merlinite model hosted in my laptop. Do you have any specific knowledge you want to add to this model?
Yes, since we both are from IBM Kochi, I would like to know the key products developed in IBM Kochi, maybe the focus areas of IBM Kochi, and where is IBM Kochi?
The first question is what are the main products developed in IBM Kochi?
Yes.
And let's see what the open source Merlinite model is going to respond back.
Yes.
So let's see whether you are excited about this answer, Renu.
It doesn't quite seem to be right. I do expect IBM watsonx Orchestrate to be listed here, but I don't see that in the screen.
And the second question is also very interesting. So the focus area for us of IBM Kochi,
That's right.
it is artificial intelligence and automation among other areas.
That's right.
And it's clearly visible to us that the model is hallucinating here.
Correct. And the third question is, where is IBM Kochi? And let's see what
We should
LLM
see
needs
Kerala in there, isn't it?
That's right. I'm expecting Kerala in that.
Yeah, and you can see that the model is hallucinating there as well.
That's right. Help me fix this.
Yeah, you can simply fix it using, develop a taxonomy. Taxonomy is nothing but a YAML file with a sample question and answer pair and a
Okay.
reference to actual knowledge. In this case, you have to have sample questions about IBM Kochi, and you need to also have a knowledge base which is having some articulation about what IBM Kochi has, right? So you can see that. And once the taxonomy is available, all you have to do is use InstructLab, iLab CLI, and generate synthetic data.
Okay.
To tune an LLM, you need question and answer pair. Basically, we create it manually, but using iLab CLI, you can automatically, synthetically generate that.
Fantastic.
It's a lot of accuracy.
Fantastic.
And once you have the synthetic data, use, iLab commands further, and then, there is a command called iLab train.
Okay.
With that, you can actually train any LLM in laptop. So now, in order to host an LLM in a laptop, you need to have a very compressed, quantized model. A lot of innovation happened there. Using iLab serve command, you can host a quantized, tuned model in a laptop, such as in MacBook M3. And right now, the training has been done, and we have added the knowledge about IBM Kochi. Do you want to ask and repeat the same questions there?
Exactly. I'm going to do that. So I can compare how the base large language model and a fine-tuned one is responding to the same questions.
Yeah, so what you see here is you have the instructed model created in a laptop, and serving that model, it's a quantized model, it's a compressed version. You can run an LLM in laptop, which has the very specific, customized knowledge we have added to it.
Okay.
And we are going to repeat the same questions.
That's
What
right.
are the main products, developed? And what do you think about this answer, Renu?
Now I'm thrilled. I can see IBM watsonx Orchestrate listed among other key products.
And I see watsonx there as well.
That's right.
And the second focus areas, we are expected to see, artificial intelligence and automation. That was missing the answer from the open source LLM.
Okay.
And we could see that as well here.
Yeah, and even the location also seems to share Kerala in it. So this is really good, Sudhish. So can you also share a bit more context on how you do this enterprise-grade tuning?
Yeah. So in order to, to take it to production, an LLM,
Okay.
we have to consider a lot of other facts. So
That's right.
InstructLab has a backend. A backend is nothing but series of orchestrators, which is running in large OpenShift clusters, and which has a lot of GPUs attached to it. It also has something what we call teacher model, which is another LLM which is going to pick the taxonomy that you develop, and then once you send it to that, and it will automatically create synthetic data. In this case, it's not going to create 25 question and sample pair. It's going to create tens and thousands of actual question and answer pair, and then it will tune. And there is also a critique model which can look into this, the sanity of the whole process, the bias of the model and other things. And then finally, the resultant model will be fully knowledgeable. It is a fully scalable, enterprise-grade model. Now, in order to really show you a demo, we are also using watsonx AI. watsonx AI is our AI platform where you can bring your own model. So, and we have used a technical manual which is about ZOS subsystem.
Great.
Just to summarize for the audience, it's actually big, 16, 17 chapters, and we have created knowledge base out of it, and then it went through the same pipeline. And, watsonx AI has an ability to host your own models, and you can see instruct model created using the InstructLab process as well as the base model. And we created a very specific chatbot for this AI conclave. It's called InstructBot, and that's also available in DemoPad. So this InstructBot can now talk to both instructed model and base model.
Okay.
And we are going to ask some very specific questions about, for example, HSM. HSM is hierarchical storage management into context of ZOS. And the instruct bot is going to ask the same question to the chat, to both the base models as well as the tuned model. And you can clearly see that the base model is thinking that it is hardware security model, which is a clear-cut hallucination.
Yes. And I think the tuned one is also picking the right one. So
Yeah.
this is spellbound, Sudesh. Fantastic indeed. Such an easy manner you are conversing with a fine-tuned large language model.
Yep. So
Yes.
what we were able to do was what was impossible, right? Previously, we
That's
were
right.
able to create some very specific knowledge about IBM Kochi here in a laptop. And then, we are also able to now create production-grade models in a quick fashion using these, fine-tuned pipelines.
Yes.
So I think I have talked about enough technical stuff here.
That's right. That's right.
It's time to talk about and how to solve some real-world problems. So what do you have in your bag today, Renu, for this?
Okay, so Siddhesh, since you have shown us how to train a large language model, I thought of using such a large language model in KYC verification in a field called institutional lending.
Institutional lending. Can
That's
you brief
right.
about that a little bit?
Institutional lending is like big financial institutions like banks are providing credit or loan to individuals or small businesses. So you know that Kerala is having emerging startup missions. So institutional lending is also playing key role in that. I will be showing you a demo for a requester who has requested for a loan to a famous bank and how her KYC verification is done in a seamless manner using generative AI.
It seems to me like a very, very busy use case
That's
to me.
right, that's
Do you
right.
have some roles in mind for the audience?
Yes. So what you see behind the screen is Mary Thomas. She owns a healthcare business and she is looking for a funding to run her business. So this is our Globe Banking and Financial Services online website. Now we can see that Mary is conversing with the generative AI assistant of the bank.
And it is awesome to see the embedded assistant experience. And
That's right.
looking like Mary is requesting for a loan of 20 lakh, is it?
That's right. So here, the purpose is a loan request. And it is wonderful to see that the Gen AI has rightly picked up the relevant options as well as the questions that Mary needs to be asked for. So the role of Mary is very simple. She just needs to answer what the generative AI is asking her. So in few moments, you can also witness that this conversational experience is getting shifted to a form-based experience.
Awesome.
Yeah. We all know that when we request for a loan, we will be subjected to upload many data, including the PAN card, the bank statement, the balance sheet, etc. So this will be very much relevant when it comes to be a form-based experience. So upon submitting the request successfully, she can get a auto-generated mail as well as a request ID. When generative AI is helping her to do all these things, she can also backtrack the loan request that she has submitted using these proofs. So what do you think about this process of requesting a loan using a generative AI-backed assistant?
I remember the last time when I requested the loan, it was so many number of steps.
That's right. That's right.
And is that all what Mary has to do?
This is what Mary has to do, and here ends the role of Mary Thomas. So the next, I would like to take you to Rakesh Samuel. Who is Rakesh? Rakesh is an employee of our Globe Banking and Financial Services. He works for the background verification department. So for every single loan request that has come to his bank, you imagine the amount of work that this person has to do. Right from checking the authenticity of the uploaded documents, running the background analysis, checking the financial status of the company, then collating all this information and sending to the KYC manager for the final approval. So what do you think about his life?
And this is a very busy life.
Yes.
It seems like he has to do a lot of things. With this, I think he's going to take at least 10, 15 days to even complete one loan request. Besides that, he's going to work on multiple simultaneous stuff, such stuff.
That's right. But you needn't be sorry when generative AI is here to help him out. This is the dashboard of Rakesh Samuel, what you see in my screen. So Rakesh is going to converse with the bot. So Sudesh, how will it feel when you come and log in for the day, someone is going to tell you, hey, you have these many action items to be taken. So how will be that experience?
That's what anybody would want to get it.
Yeah, this is exactly what is happening with Rakesh when generative AI is helping him to see the pending KYC request. He selects Mary's loan request and he's trying to proceed with that. Let's see what.
And then, see, I can see that the next action is one click away. That's just
right.
awesome.
That's right. For any new KYC scrutinizer being recruited for the bank, he need not want to go through the different process handbooks. It is just a few clicks away to get the next action that he needs to take upon. So this generative AI is literally taking the documents uploaded by Mary Thomas, checking the different government websites to collate the data, and giving you the results of the same. The most critical part of institutional lending is background verification. And generative AI is really helping Rakesh to achieve that. The other important task in generative AI-backed institutional lending is collating all this data. So the verification of the PAN card and GST, running the financial analysis, and checking the background information about the company. All these tasks are being collated into a single form so that Rakesh can check for all these customized responses generated by the assistant. And he can still arrive into a conclusion basis the Gen AI analysis that will happen towards the end. So with this, Rakesh's life is made simple. He can very well decide whether this loan request is a go or a no-go. And Sudhish, do you think humans are superior to AI?
Yeah, we always want to verify, we want to govern what AI does for us.
Yeah, it's an absolute no-brainer. So that is what is happening now when Rakesh is getting an opportunity to submit his comments before he sends for the final approval. So the KYC manager, who is the final authority to sign this, has to do nothing but check the AI analysis plus Rakesh's analysis and arrive into a conclusion to approve or reject this loan. So what you see right now is that instead of going through different websites to get this data, Rakesh hasn't left the assistant at all. It is literally moving mountains for Rakesh.
Yeah, what I initially thought that it would take at least 10-15 days, it's going to take only a few hours for him to complete such a multiple requests.
That's right. With generative AI, we are accomplishing increased productivity, better risk assessment, better accuracy, better decision-making capability, and whatnot. So I encourage each and every one of you sitting over here to utilize the power of generative AI and transform your business into next level.
Yeah, and we would also like to thank both Instruct Lab and the Orchestrate team who set up this demo, as well as it's available outside in the demo parts, among with various interesting other demos. With that, I would like to welcome Dinesh back to the stage.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being patient listeners.
Thank you, Sutish, and thank you, Renu. Both of them from our Kochi lab, so I really appreciate you coming in, showing them how the generative AI models work, and also talk about how you can infuse that into the existing enterprise application. Before I bring the guests out, I want to show one last slide, which is very powerful, which is there is no way, nothing can expand unless it's a partnership. So we formed a partnership with Meta. We formed a partnership with many companies, but not just companies, with nonprofits, with universities, with government agencies, to bring this alliance forward to make sure everyone benefits from it. Not just big companies, but everybody, every universities, every nonprofit, students, they can all sign up to make sure that they get the benefit of generative AI. I mean, look at some of the numbers. More than 400,000, more than 1 billion. I mean, those are the kind of numbers we are looking at in Alliance to help enterprises, small startups, universities, everybody benefit from it. So this is the alliance we formed this year to make sure that we enable and help everybody understand and help with generative AI. So now I want to bring the guest out here. So let's bring our guests out to talk about how they are using generative AI within their enterprises.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining Mr. Dinesh Nirmal, who will be the moderator, let's welcome the panelists. First up, Mr. Amit Kumar, Managing Director and Partner, Boston Consulting Group.
Come.
Joining him, we have Dr. Elias Zamora, CTO, Sevilla Football Club. Let's also join our hands and welcome Mr. Abhishek Tomar, Chief Data Officer, S&P Global Market Intelligence. And we also have with us Dmitri Gamarnik, CEO from Comparus. A huge round of applause to the panelists and over to the session chair.
So this is really interesting because when we started this discussion about the GenAI Conclave, one of the things that we discussed is that how do we bring different participants from different industries to really share their thought process on how they're using generative AI within their enterprise. I mean, we can talk all day about generative AI, the benefits of it, but unless the practitioners come and talk about it, it's not powerful. So I've been working with Dmitri, who's the CEO of Comparus, who's based in Germany, on how they are really infusing AI and generative AI into the banks. I mean, Dmitri, you have been working with what, 100 plus banks or 700 banks. I don't want to make it lower, but I mean, very powerful. I mean, we have Abhishek here, who's with S&P 500. It's all about ratings. And what causes ratings? Data. And I talked about data, and Abhishek and team has been working with data and making sure that these ratings are right, because many companies depend on these ratings. So how do you use generative AI and AI to really drive those ratings from a data perspective? So Abhishek brings the wealth of information from a data perspective. And then I have Elias Zamora, who is the Chief Data Officer for Sevilla FC. I always call it soccer club, and he gets upset with me. He says it's football, it's not soccer. So I have to always remember, Sevilla FC is a football club in Spain, and I was able to see him in Barcelona about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about what he's doing with generative AI. I mean, what a great opportunity for sports clubs to bring generative AI into them. And then I have Amit from BCG, Boston Consulting Group, really working with thousands of customers and focused on generative AI. So thank you all. I mean, it's part of the GenAI Conclave in Kochi. So I'll start with you, Amit. What is that you're seeing from customers? I mean, I know we wrote all these things. I'm going to go off script. But what are you seeing from customers as a practitioners on generative AI? Because, like I said, there's a lot of discussion on generative AI, but only 10% of the customers have really implemented it. What are you seeing from the industry?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Dinesh, and thank you for the invitation here. Look, generative AI has created a lot of excitement, as we all know, right? And this conference is an example of that. Everybody wants to be part of it. It's being talked about in every boardroom and every C-suite. Everybody wants to infuse generative AI in their products. They want to infuse generative AI in their operations. However, there are lots and lots of challenges. Challenges around data, challenges around models, challenges around governance, challenges around how do you train the users and how do you drive adoption. So what we really are seeing, while there is a lot of excitement, barely 10% of the companies are scaling up one or two use cases. 40 to 50% of the companies have lots of POCs going on, probably too many POCs going on, and they do not have a clear pathway to scale ups. And the conversations we are having with this category of customer is how do you prune down, how do you kill POCs which are not going to benefit you and really focus on 3 to 5, which will have a business impact. And then there are another 40, 50% of the companies who have barely started. They don't really know, given the complexity, on where to start from. And the biggest thing there we are trying to do is trying to evangelize with the leaders, with the C-suite, that be advocate for generative AI. Find a use case, find a technology partner, and start playing with it. So that's some of the things we are seeing in the market.
So, Abhishek, I will ask you because you obviously have a lot of exposure that is critical because ratings are never easy, right? I mean, you know better than anyone else. But these companies depend on these ratings because there's bonds and everything else that ratings comes with it. How are you seeing yourself using generative AI? I mean, you know, kind of give a color on the usage of generative AI within and some of the challenges, right, that real customers are facing.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dinesh. And man, should I use this as well? Maybe this is good enough, right? First
One
of
is
all,
a generative AI mic, and the
yeah,
other
no,
is
I think so. I mean, this is great. Thank you. First of all, thanks for welcoming to this beautiful city here. So thanks to IBM and the state of Kerala for doing that. I think from an S&P standpoint, for us, everything starts with the client first. So a couple of things that you spoke in your keynote earlier really resonates with us as well in terms of how we see our both clients evolving, also how we evolving internally to drive the outcomes of on the use of AI or generative AI in the workflows that we do every day. When I say client, I mean everyone who's really looking to adapt. I mean, so you said ratings as one aspect of S&P. We are probably the largest and the foremost provider of data, analytics, and ratings and benchmarks in the world right now. With that said, there is a lot of data that sits within the larger organization that really needs to be clean. It has to be channel agnostic. It has to be AI ready for some of our clients who are adopting it. And just piggybacking on what just Amit said, a lot of clients are in different parts of their journey, honestly speaking, because some of them are on high adoption level, and then some of them are still scratching the surface, doing some POCs. For what we do really well is enabling them in that journey in the sense of how they can consume data in different ways that S&P can actually provide that to them. And for us to do that, we need to clean everything underneath it from a foundational standpoint. When it comes to data lifecycle, every component of this, from a fabric to how the sourcing of data happens, there's a lot of areas where the workflow that GenAI presents today is really helping our researchers making lives of our clients easier. So I think for us, as I said, building on capability, partnering with companies like IBM and others to kind of really build those capabilities as we move along.
I talked about culture, which I personally experience because I have a large dev organization. We talked about tops down versus bottoms up approach. How do we change the culture that it sticks? Mm-hmm. Like, what is your experience at S&P?
Yeah, we were just having a breakfast this morning, and I think we were sharing some notes here or chit-chatting. But I think one of the things that it's a journey that we've been embarked upon within S&P for almost 7 years now. So this started with basic, RPA to start with, because that was a big low-hanging fruit where you can actually really automate some of the functions there. And that journey has evolved because it's almost groundswell that we've created in the organization. So people get incentivized in terms of really moving the dial up in terms of where the efficiencies can be built from an operational standpoint. But beyond the operational standpoint, we see the same problems that our clients are facing each day. When it comes to data wrangling, it comes to data management, it comes to cleaning data. So we're now almost on the verge of using some of our internal capabilities, and how can we take this forward? So that really gives employees a really good incentive to think about that innovation is not just internal to us, it's about expanding this to the client end where you can take the value and they can deliver more value in the organization. So I 100% agree with you that there is a culture element to change, and that change has to come from the groundswell that you can create in the organization, the training, the upskilling, everything else that we talk about is critical to the culture part of it. So, yeah.
So, very true. I mean, I want to talk to Elias. Very interesting story. Elias is a PhD doctorate in mathematics, so he's very well versed in data and everything around machine learning. And when I first met Elias, I mean, it was a fantastic story where he's a pioneer in saying, how can I bring generative AI into soccer, into sports? And he really embarked on a journey by which now everyone else is trying to do the same. But what is interesting about the story of Sevilla is, I didn't know this, but there's someone called a scout advisor who goes and looks at the players and takes notes, which is all done manually, and then they come back to Spain, right, Sevilla,
Yes.
and then they all get together and they'll compare notes. But the notes are not that easy. So a forward is called a tank. I mean, who calls tank? I thought it was a real tank. But then I realized they call a tank is a forward who is really good. So there's a lot of slangs in this language, but using generative AI, Elias and team has completely transformed, optimized, and automated it. So I really want you to hear Elias' story, which is fascinating from a soccer club perspective. So Elias, I mean, tell the audience what you did with Scout Advisor, which is all about scouting for players.
Yes. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me here to Kochi and also to India, because for Sevilla FC, India is one of our main countries to expand ourselves, to get people know ourselves, and we have partners here in India. So for us, India is not like another country; it's a main country. So even more important to be here. So the question is pretty easy. And this is not how to use AI, it's having the right question to be solved and finding the right tool or the right methodology to solve it, and this end up being AI. So the situation was pretty easy. Sevilla FC was working with data massively for the last 5 years. We had a lot of data, numerical and categorical and good tools that we built ourselves in order to identify players, characterize players based on numerical and categorical data. Numerical, how many minutes he played, how many goals, how many passes, so everyone here can understand what it is about. Categorical is what is the main position of the player, I don't know, which was his last team, is he on loan or not, these kind of things. Perfect, well done. But as Dinesh said, we are very well known for scouting. Scouting is that you send players to everywhere in the world. They write a free language report, and they collect it in some databases, and finally we end up having, in the last 5 years, 300,000 of such reports. In the last 10, 15 years, near 1 million. Who is going to read it and to get systematical information from this? Is impossible. When you have 20, you can do it. When you have 20,000, it's more or less impossible. When you have 200,000, it's impossible. So what we did is to apply in this tool, it's called Scout Advisor, to use AI, to use large language models mainly, in order to identify in which of these reports appear some concepts that are really important for football. One of them is this tank center forward. When you are looking for a tank center forward, it used to be a strong center forward that can play good with the head, that can retain central defense, or that can give rise to second opportunities. So the AI allows us to understand what we are looking for, written in Spanish in this case, or in any other language, then to transform it or to enrich it in order to compare it with these millions of reports. At the end of the day, this tool, this technology, give us which of these reports are the one that contains the characteristic of the players that I am looking for. So in this way, we were able to describe a player or to identify players using numbers and categories that can be typically collected through sensors in the pitch, but also using systematically human expertise. And this is what I think that is more valuable, that in this case, artificial intelligence allows us to use human intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, so Elias, how many countries do you go scouting?
I think that we have in the order of 50, so more or less all over the world, because now with videos, you don't have just to send people, you just can watch a match of any category in any country. So we have 15 guys traveling all over the world every weekend, but also when they are not traveling, they are watching videos. So,
But do you do scouting in India?
Yeah, that was about
our partners do.
Kerala is a big state for football. They should come and see it.
I know. Kerala is a big state for football. You might be able to scout some from here.
Yeah. We have now an international team that we are forming in the academy, so we need Indian players.
Excellent. So before I go to Dmitri, I also want to engage the audience. So you have the experts here who are from different industries on talking about generative AI, right? He's from the sports aspect of it. If you look at Abhishek, he's from S&P and financial aspect of it. If you look at Dmitri, it's more from a banking side of things. And then we have Amit, who is dealing with hundreds, if not thousands of customers from Boston Consulting Group. So we are going to give you an opportunity to ask questions. If you have any questions for the panelists, please raise your hands and ask questions. But let me ask Dmitri. So Dmitri, I've known you for a while as with the Comparus, but I also know you work with the largest banks in Germany. How in Europe is generative AI being adopted? One. Two, banks are always risk averse. They don't want to take risk because for the right reasons. Are you seeing some level of concern from bank adoption of generative AI from a risk perspective?
Thanks. It's my first time in India, and I'm very impressed by this event. And thank you for this opportunity. We have bringing a new technology in the banking sector for 24 years. And the question, the adoption of new technology in the banks is a difficult question. The strong regulation is a political question. But in the first step, dear Minister, in Germany the question is also be asked, will AI replace the people? However, the market...
The panelists, please raise your hands and ask questions. But let me ask Dmitri. So Dmitri, I've known you for a while as with the Comparus, but I also know you work with the largest banks in Germany. How in Europe is generative AI being adopted? One. Two, banks are always risk averse. They don't want to take risk because for the right reasons. Are you seeing some level of concern from bank adoption of generative AI from a risk perspective?
Thanks. It's my first time in India, and I'm very impressed by this event. And thank you for this opportunity. We have bringing a new technology in the banking sector for 24 years. And the question, the adoption of new technology in the banks is a difficult question. The strong regulation is a political question. But in the first step, dear Minister, in Germany the question is also be asked, will AI replace the people? However, the market for labor in Germany is shrinking. There seems to be 30% in shortage of skilled workers. And my customer often ask me, how can my company close this gap in the short term? And my answer is to start with build AI-based assistant and agents. And I think it's the first step in banking in Germany. Is a mid-sized company business. In Germany have 2,000 banks, as most of them is regional, and most of them is have deep understanding of local business. And the new platform can transfer the company knowledge of the banks and an employer's skills into models in the first step. And I think it's no barrier from regulation for this step. But deep understanding the processes of business or banking business is very, very important. And IBM Process Mining, we are working with your tools and helps us understand the business process quickly and accurately. A year ago, we analyzed 25 German banks, and they have 40,000 variants of processes. So, and the banking is complicated business, but almost all processes can be optimized with AI now, almost. 1 billion processes are started in Germany every year. And average cost per process amount and then 10 euro per process. That's your value for. A bot trained in company knowledge called support staff in all times. Yeah. But for now, it's regulations say so only rule-based decision is allowed in a banking. So the other parts of processes you can outperform with AI-based assistants and AI-based agents. And generative AI can cut back office cost. I think it's more than 5 or 10%, but so the strategy consultant says now. No? Yeah. But Gen AI has also some problems. You say, and risk, then if a company processes people on a system fail, it can lose money and damage its reputation. And for the banks, this is important things, reputation and the money. Value at risk is the central thinking of the bankers. As AI assess and use more, the risky problem is growth. Other risks from models relating intellectual property. So when using a third-party AI tool, companies need to understand what data has gone into the training and how is it used. So many managers don't understand it now. So this is transfer from data in a model and then in an AI-based assistant. When companies use generic AI, they can make sure that it's safe, honest, and fair. So they can help IBM governance, watsonx governance products for. Business governance and scientists should work together to find a way to stop misinformation on these risks. And this includes doing more research and sharing the best ways of doing things. Events like this can be a big or first step in this direction.
So I think you kind of, to summarize what you said, one is the domain knowledge that you need to really get in, which is the data aspect of it. Then obviously there is the business processes, which is how do you infuse generative AI into, because these are business processes that runs. Yeah. And then 3, there's the risk aspect that comes, everyone is somewhat, which is all fair. Any questions from the audience that anybody has for, go ahead. Is there a mic we can give?
Yes, good afternoon. First of all, let me congratulate the organizers, especially the government of Kerala, the entire team, Department of Industries, and the team IBM. Big rounds of applause to the entire team. So my query is, we talk much on AI and the data and all. So, but in the West, they talk on the data privacy. data privacy is on one side and the openness towards the AI on the other side. So how do we defend these, both of these legally, ethically, sometimes politically? So that is my query.
I mean, we were actually talking about that exact same thing on the data. I mean, the data privacy. How do we make sure that, you know, the data that we use for fine-tuning a model is not PII data, but it's your data, right? Trusted data, rather than the data that, you know, it's out there. That is one of the major reasons why a lot of enterprises are hesitant to adopt generative AIs, because they don't know what the data has been used to train these models, what kind of privacy rules, PII data, all those things has been touched. And you see some of the lawsuits that's happening against some of the other vendors because all kind of data has been used that is not copyrighted, all those things. So totally 100%, I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I mean,
Yeah,
Abhishek, you probably...
I think Dinesh touched on it already, but I think just to add to it, so for example, let's take S&P as an example. We go back in financials, if you want to go back in the time series, 1960. So if you want to really do a full regression on something, the financials go back to 1960 in our own products today. I mean, I think that's massive. I mean, I think it's hard to find that. But that is your gold, literally speaking. You want to protect it. You want to make sure that it doesn't go out of your environment. So we do partner with data distribution companies to be agnostic of the channel, because our clients are using various platforms today or various cloud providers in terms of how they use it. But we keep the data in our environment, and it actually works very, very seamlessly with the partnership that we grow with that. But the critical point that Dinesh said, it is a very, very important topic today around how you protect, how you build, and then regulation around the corner around these things. Most countries are looking at not only data privacy regulations, but how GenAI operates in that in the same framework. So there's going to be a lot of change in the industry around these things. But I think what is critical is that companies would always look to protect it in some shape or size, however they can do that in terms of protecting their true value that comes through the value that they have in the organization. So, no, I agree with that.
There's also, I think, data locality and sovereign data. So
I'm happy to add, and also connect with the previous point, right? Everybody is trying, lots of POCs are going on, but we talked about only 10% of the companies are scaling up. And there are many factors, but this one is a very, very important factor, right? Like every board, every C-suite, every government is very concerned about the ethics aspect of it. And they should be concerned about the ethics aspect, as Abhishek was talking, right? Like companies have been built in decades, and a lot of trust has been built in. And every company has to think about, hey, if I use this particular model, if I use this data, will this cause a risk to my business? Will it erode the trust? Will I be able to answer to my shareholders, my employees, my society in years to come? That's one of the very important questions which is being asked in every company, every government.
So, was there go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
So hello? Yes. So my question is on Dr. Elias Zamora. So I was thinking, like, what's the opportunity of multimodal generative AI, particularly in sports, since we are not talking about the text, right? It's maybe the videos that's kind of streaming, or maybe recorded videos. How we can apply this kind of vision transformers to these videos or streams such that can apply something like, can extract features like the speed, the performance, maybe performance analyzing. How that kind of system can improve sports, particularly multimodal systems.
I think if I understood the question correctly, it was about how can the videos aspects of it, like in the sports, how are you going to use generative AI to really bring transformation on the video side of things in the sports?
Yeah, this is a good question. and this, I will try to give you a general answer to this. First of all, in sport, there is a massive use of AI in videos, mainly in the generation and automatical detection and generation of content. This is massively used by many providers, NBA, La Liga, etc. They are not tagging manually the videos anymore, but they are just generating through AI, identifying key moments of the match, identifying key part of the speech of a coach, for example, and then automatically editing the video, everything done with generative AI, editing the video, and then put it directly in some kind of databases of content, digital content, to be used by clubs or by the communication departments of La Liga, for example. This is in terms of video, but in my case, when we speak more about the game, I would be careful with the overuse or to think that AI, generative AI, should be done for everything. For example, videos, everything that has to do with kinematical properties, that I think that you were speaking about this, velocity, I don't know, number of sprints, maximum speed, etc. This comes directly from providers. The providers, they use typically computer vision algorithm, machine learning and all these things in order to track players and to identify the key kinematical properties. And then they extract the key elements. Some of them, many providers do it automatically through broadcasting. So for me, as a club, I get it directly from provider. So when you face a problem, first of all, you have to ask yourself, do I have an easy solution? In this case, the provider giving me the maximum speed of a player of Sevilla FC in a given match or in a given portion of the match. Perfect, I have it. If not, maybe the question can be solved using, let us say, simpler or cheaper technologies, or not so cutting-edge technologies like AI. So, in my case, my kind of rule is that having the right question, then detecting which are the more stable technologies, if not directly providers, to do it, and then, if I detected that it is generative AI, in this case, I go for this.
So I'm going to touch base on, I'll come back to you in a second, 1 second. I mean, I want to touch base on a sensitive topic, which is, there's always the great story on generative AI, but there's also concerns about generative AI taking away jobs. I just want answers from all of you in 2 minutes or less on what is your thoughts on generative AI. I mean, we all understand the benefits, right? I mean, that's very clear. Everybody gets it. But the concerns are there that this could take away jobs. Yeah. What is your take?
So, look, my sense on this is it will create shift in how jobs are being created. If anything, it'll create a lot more opportunities. The space is very complex. There are, like, you need to define the use cases, you need to build new infrastructure, you need to learn different models, you need to deploy the models in the workflows, you need to monitor, you need to maintain. Like, somebody needs to be responsible for training, enablement, and then more and more activities needs to be done, right? It'll create net new use cases with time to come. So I truly believe, will some jobs go away? Yes, maybe. Every technology takes some jobs away. But will job and economy as a whole thrive and create net new opportunities? Yes, absolutely. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Dinesh, for calling the elephant in the room, because I think that's a question that everybody wants to know. But having said that, I think what we believe very strongly is this is going to be a change in the demand curve when it comes to the quantum of data required to do a process today. I mean, I think, I'll give you an example. I mean, there was 10 years back or maybe 15 years back, the number of alternate data required to make an investment decision was almost, I would say, 10x less than what it is required today. If you happen to be in any industry, you're demanding tons of data to really kind of make investment decisions in the right direction. It's not just about the financial matrix anymore. It's about the other factors that leads to those financial factors that are coming into the picture. So that means the demand curve for things to do more is definitely increasing. Another analogy that works really well for me for many years is, if you happen to be a Formula One fan here, anyone who's a Formula One fan here and follows it, there used to be 10 years back, they would take maybe about 3 minutes or maybe a minute or more into changing tires, putting the fuel back in, but there were only 9 people there. Today there are 40 people with 10 seconds or maybe 9 seconds. The Red Bull, last record was like a 9-second or something. The number of people has still increased, but the value is shifting. I think the value shift is the biggest element here, which we can kind of forget when it comes to technology advancements. There will be operational, effectiveness. There will be productivity improvements, but the increase in the quantum of what we look at from a data is just going to be transformational. So I see the balance coming through that from the jobs, but what is critical, if there are people, universities here, upskilling, keeping an experimentation mindset around what you look at today, from just not go into a chat GPT, ask a question and say, magic, done, let's move on. Let's do more around that. Maybe build some aptitude around learning what is behind the scene around these things. That will help in your career in terms of how things move up.
I think that I try to think generally. I think that we are in one of the biggest technological revolutions of the last 2,000 years. In the past, there was no technological revolution, agriculture, steam engine, automatization, electronics, that didn't create as many jobs as they destroyed. But the thing what changed is the kind of task, the kind of preparation that people should have. So to be a little bit more systematical, if we assume this, we are not going to lose jobs, we are going to create new jobs. And to create new jobs, it is what was here said, we will need a dramatically different kind of skills that people should have. I always say the same. I was doing a postdoc 2008, 2011 in Switzerland. Now, things that I am doing in my daily job in Sevilla FC are things that were done in purely research academical activities in ETH Zurich in 2008, 2011. Only for a minority of people that were interested in topics. Now it's everywhere. So what we are going to face is that new and probably even more activities or new tasks are going to be created, as we have already lived with the digital revolution. We don't live better than 20 years ago. We do more things, but they are different. They are of higher level. But they are going to be more abstract. They are going to be, you are going to need more technological education. You are going to need more mathematical education. Probably this is going to be the change in the education that people have. And because of that, the educational system is even more important than 20 years ago.
What is your thoughts, Dimitri?
I think in the last months, we realized 3 important projects for our customers. Since the first one is an assistant for automatic customer support in a call center for many banks. A company working with 100 banks. So every 2 minutes, it is switch when calling for an agent in other business context. So it's real pressure for many people in this situation. So and I think an AI-based model can help people to working on this pressure in such situation. So it's a question, is AI technology and AI assistance is my friend? So it's acceptance for people is a very important part of the technology transfer. The data is very important. You say, okay, the banks, I think the bank perspective, have enough data for transfer. So we have data from last 5 or 10 years. You can train on using for fine-tuning. You have enough information and conversation. But the understanding was in the good dialogues, and then what's the people's skill to be transferred in this technology. It's a very, very important discussion with our customer now, in day 2.
That's really good. We will take the last question because we are at the top of the hour. There was a question in the back. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Nirmal, sir. IBM's Nirmal, sir. Sir, what are your tips regarding a Kerala-specific LLM, large language model, Kerala-specific or Malayalam-specific? And the second question is regarding institutionalized lending assisted by GAI. It is scary because reducing bank jobs into a mere algorithm is scary. What are your take? What is your take?
I think the first question on can we create an LLM based on the Kerala/the Malayalam language, I think that's one thing I do want to talk to the university officials to see how can we make that happen with collaboration, right? Can we really use an LLM that is Malayalam based? I mean, there's a huge opportunity for us to go do that. So yes, I mean, that is the plan. But the second piece, I didn't really get it. It was more about how can we train. So I didn't get the second aspect of it. But the first piece, for sure, we are going to go train a model, an LLM based on the Malayalam language, for sure. All right, so look, I mean, I think this was a great discussion. I really appreciate, I mean, all these panelists are from different parts of the world, different parts of the industry, and was able to come here, and some of you, first time in Kochi, and I really appreciate you coming here and sharing your thoughts on how you're using generative AI to improve enterprises. What are the risks associated with it? So thank you to all of you for being here and helping our audience understand it better.
Thank you for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, a huge applause to the moderator and the panelists, and we request the gentlemen to please stay back as we take this moment to show our gratitude for your time and presence. Requesting the team to bring out the plaques on stage, and request our session chair, the moderator, Mr. Dinesh Nirmal, to do the honors for the 4 fantastic panelists we've had right here today. With a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, once again, for the panelists and for the moderator. One more time, a huge round of applause right here at the International GenAI Conclave, Kochi. Thank you, gentlemen.